So, welcome to our next edition of the monthly mentoring. Very exciting one. We've got a very special guest, a good friend of Krill's, actually. So, moving forward in terms of the agenda, uh, I'll just go through this. So, first of all, I'll discuss a little bit about the presenter and the background for Gian, and then the three core components of online of your online platform. I think as a coach, it's extremely important to know online marketing. A lot of marketing has been shifted to online, and um, I've spent a fair bit of time just in the last month just going through some of Jihan's material, and it's just incredible the information that he has and uh, some of the work that he's done with a lot of coaches and just some entrepreneurs who are really getting some results from his work. Which social media tools are the most important? How to distribute and automate high quality content that positions you as an authority. I think more and more we've seen this applicable in this day and age simply because people want industry experts. They want to speak to those who are experts in the field that or industry that they're operating in. And the more and more you can position yourself in that way online, well, the better your chances are landing more clients. And then how to tap into other people and their networks for mutual gain. Simple ways to grab somebody's attention online, and then we'll open up some Q&A sessions along with that. So, bit of background to begin with. Gian is an international coach for business coaches. He's worked with some of Australia's leading thought leaders, change agents, and entrepreneurs. Formal background in science and technology, and started using the internet in 1987. He actually founded First Step Communications in 1997. Google was still in its infancy. So, and he wrote the book Fast, Flat, and Free to help business owners really um, get out of their struggles with what the internet means to them and their business. So that's a bit of an intro. I'd like to now formally welcome Gian into the presentation. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Alex. Great to be here.
There we
All
go.
right, so Alex has just given me control. So let me just see if I switch over to this. And you should see my screen coming up now. Great, you've got it. Great. So look, Alex, thank you for that introduction. I feel a little bit odd calling myself a coach, and Alex did mention I'm an internet coach, and that's the way I kind of position myself. But talking to other people who are coaches, I don't think I've got the patience to be a coach. So I do a lot of mentoring and consulting, and I really admire the people who are coaches. And I know there's a bit of a crossover in those areas, but I do, and I want to make this a very interactive webinar, and I've kind of designed it around the coaching modality rather than the training or workshopy type thing. So even though I will be presenting a lot, I also want to make this quite interactive, and I'll be stopping often for questions. Alex will be keeping an eye on the question box. If you have a microphone, we can turn your microphone on when we stop for questions. So this webinar has a lot of questions in it for you, and so I've kind of designed it rather than me just telling you stuff. I'm going to ask you questions, and then I'm going to ask you to ask me questions as well. I know Alex sent around on LinkedIn a link to the handout that I've got here. There's a number of slides. There's a lot of slides in this presentation, and I want to save you the time of having to write down everything. So I've got the copy of the slides available it's actually on Fast, Flat, and Free. It says gihanperera.com at the bottom, but if you go to fastflatandfree.com, which is a website for the book, then you'll be able to download the webinar handout if you haven't done it already. And I say webinar handout, it's just a copy of the slides, just to save you a little bit of time in having to write or type everything as we go along, because we've only got an hour, and what we'll find is that it seems like a long time, but it actually, we run through it pretty quickly. Alex did tell you a little bit about me, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. He did mention the book Fast, Flat, and Free, which is really an overview of what business owners should be doing and with their business, tapping into the power of the internet. So it's how the internet's changed your business and what you need to do about it. And it's got these 9 sections, which I'm going to break down into 3 sections, which are these 3 online, 3 core components, and then breaks them down into these 9. So we'll cover them. I'll give you an overview of them, but we'll dig in deep to whatever you want to cover as well. I also run a membership site called the eGurus Community. Love to have you as a member. The sort of people I have as members are speakers, trainers, coaches, consultants, thought leaders, and infopreneurs. I won't go on about that because this is not to promote the eGurus community, but if you want to find out about it, go to egurus.info. Just for people who know me, they know that I do 2 things. I talk about e-marketing and e-learning. So e-marketing is about promoting yourself online. E-learning is about delivering your educational material, like your coaching stuff online, or material that supports your coaching. Today is very much about e-marketing. So it's not about setting up things like surveys for your clients, or setting up online courses, or doing things like webinars as products for your clients. So just want to set that as a frame, just so we know which of the 2 areas we're talking about today. All right, so let's get into that thing that Alex mentioned at the start. So the 3 core components of your business. So nowadays, the big picture of business is, I like to think about this metaphor that I learned when I was in high school physics, that the gravitational force between 2 planets was due to 3 things: the size of one, the size of the other, and how close they were to each other. And it's one of Newton's laws of gravitational force. And I think the same is true with us in our businesses. The power of our business is based on 3 factors. It's about how good we are in our business, how well we understand our market, and then how well we can bring those 2 things together with marketing. And the 3 key things you've got to understand are becoming an authority, not just a salesperson; building a community, not just trying to push stuff on customers; and nowadays you have to sell with respect, because people with one click of a button can be on the other side of the world. So broadly, there are these 9 principles. Which are about, on the business side is face, value, reputation. On the market side is niche, wants, and tribe. And the marketing side is connections, frames, and experiences. I know I went through that very quickly, and so please don't feel that you have to understand it all now, because that's exactly what we're going to cover in the next 50 minutes that we have together. I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up with this area, that almost always when I talk about this topic, most people want to focus on this area here. And this is the bit about that most people are interested in with marketing. So reputation is about social media, values about things like blogging and video and podcasting and special reports. Showing your faces about things like, again, things like video, things like having a strong profile in social media. And so most people want to focus here. And, you know, I think that's a good thing. So if we spend most of our time in these 3 out of the 9, and we don't get much time to go into these other 6, I think that's okay. I want this to be run by you guys, not by me. I want this to be, so even though I'll set the framework for you, we'll spend the time in the areas that you think are the most important. So if we do spend most of our time in that area, that's okay. And I do want to give you as much value as you need and as we can give in this next 50 minutes that we've got together. I reckon a lot of the things that we're covering, you might think, well, we've had these same questions all the time, and you know, what's different? And remember when Albert Einstein was teaching physics at Princeton University, one year he outraged his other staff members by giving the students exactly the same test that he gave the students the previous year. And they said, well, you know, what's the point of that? The questions are exactly the same. And he said, the answers are different. I'm not sure whether that's a true story or not, but I think this is kind of true for us as well, that I think that the sort of questions that we're facing in business are pretty much the same questions we've always had. How do we stand out? How do we find the right sort of niches and products to serve? And how can we cut through to get through to the right sort of networks? But the answers now are very different, and mainly it's due to the internet. And it's true for any business, and not only for businesses that deal online. All right, so broadly what we're going to do is go through those 9 areas, and I've got 3 questions in each of those areas. So now here's we get into the hard work. So make sure you've got pen and paper handy, or pencil and finger and iPad handy, and get ready, because I'm going to ask you 3 questions in each of those 9 areas. And I'm going to ask you questions, but the questions are meant to prompt you to ask me questions in turn as well. So I'd like you to answer them for yourself. Write them down, please, while you're doing it. And also, I hope that prompts you for questions for me as well. So we're going to go through this in 9 sets. And each one, I'm going to show you the 3 questions. I may talk briefly about it, and then we're going to stop for questions. So there'll be a lot of time for you to ask me questions. I know Alex said we'll have some Q&A at the end as well, but also I really want to make this interactive as we're going. Okay, so are you ready? Let's go for it. So the first area, which I said is the one that I think most people want to ask about, is this area about building your authority. So it's about those things there: face, value, and reputation. So here are the 3 questions I've got for you about showing your face. So this is the first one. So the first question is, why should I choose you? So in other words, what makes you different? The second one is, what does your welcome video say? And the third one is, having a domain name that is your name. So let me just give you a couple of brief hints around that to help you answer them. By the way, just a reminder again, all of these slides are in the handout, so please go and download the handout so that you don't have to waste time writing the questions down for yourself here. So things like, why should I choose you, is what makes you different. And I reckon you can look at these 4 things. So what experience do you have? So this is number of years you've done this, number of clients you work with. What expertise do you have, which is slightly different. These are the skills that you've got. What are your qualifications or your education? And what endorsements or what testimonials or great endorsements do you have from people, organizations, and so on? So for me, one of the things I often say is that last year, Forbes magazine rated me as a number 5 social media influencer in the world in one of my areas of expertise, which is book publishing. So that's an endorsement which I talk about everywhere whenever I'm talking about the internet, because that's a great credibility piece for me, and that's why they should choose me. The other thing is about your domain name. People often ask about what sort of names they should get for what sort of domain names they should get. I reckon the number 1 domain name you should get if you're a coach or any other kind of thought leader is a domain name for your name. And if possible, get the .com. So I've got gihanperera.com. Not everyone is as lucky as I to have a name like Gihan Perera, where the domain name was still available a decade ago. But please have a look for it and see if you can get yourname.com. I've also grabbed a few others. So gihanperera.info is my blog. It actually is just a page on my website, but I like to give out my blog address to people. And rather than saying go to gihanperera.com/blogs.html, I just say go to gihanperera.info. Similarly, gihanperera.tv is my YouTube channel. It's just a web address on YouTube, but I have the .tv pointing to it. And I think mobile is going to be very big, so I've just grabbed gihanperera.mobi, and I'm not using it for anything at the moment. Okay, so that's just a couple of hints about answering those 3 questions. I won't go into that much detail for every set of 3, but I just wanted to kind of get the momentum going, get your creative juices flowing. And so now, answer those questions, and please ask me some as well. So there are 2 ways to ask. If you've got a microphone and headset, just raise your hand, which just means click the little yellow hand button, and I can turn your microphone on. Or if you're worried about background noise or you don't have a headset, just type a question in the question box, and we'll read it out and answer on your behalf. I guess this is about uniqueness, having a welcome video, and grabbing domain names. Alex, do you see any questions coming in? I can't see anything at the moment, and I'm happy to continue because this one's reasonably easy anyway.
So nothing so far.
Okay, good. We'll continue. The next 2 are the ones that are probably the biggest sets of 3, because they're about creating content on the internet and then distributing it. So the next set of 3 is called Lead with Value. So people now, they don't want advertising, they don't want hype. They actually want you to give them something that's valuable. So the 3 questions I've got for you are, what are you the best in the world at? And this came from, I'll get onto that. I'll do the questions first so you can get into answering them. So what do you consider yourself? How do you position yourself the best in the world? Then, what methods are you using to share your expertise? And the third one is, how frequently are you blogging? And I guess there's an implicit thing in there that says that you should be blogging, right? And I'm asking you, how frequently are you doing it? That first question came from a great book by Seth Godin called, the names escape me now, The Dip. And in The Dip, he says, be the best in the world or quit. So it sounds quite ambitious, but I reckon the way you make this work for you is that you get to decide what best is, and you get to decide what world is. So you've got to decide what are you going to position yourself as the best, and for what sort of market. Okay, so make sure you've got that positioning clear so that you've got this unique differentiator in your coaching business, because there are hundreds, thousands of coaches around. And if you just say I'm a business coach or an executive coach or a career transition coach or a life coach, if you know those are broad, those are too broad in just by themselves. So you've got to be really specific about that. The second question was about how you're sharing your expertise, and just here are some examples of ways that you could be sharing your expertise, just to give you some ideas. Just keep that up there for a couple of minutes, a few seconds, just so you can get some ideas from there. Again, remember this is in the handout. Okay, I'll go back to those 3 questions. So this is a really good time if you want to ask me any specific questions about any of those tools that we just saw on the previous slide. And if anyone wants me to go back to the slide when you're asking a question, please feel free to do that, and I'll do that for you. Okay, so what's your uniqueness, and in terms of positioning yourself as the best in the world? What ways are you sharing your expertise, and how frequently are you blogging? I was speaking to a group of actually seniors in, CEOs of aged care foundation, aged care service organizations here in Perth yesterday, and I was talking to them about the importance of blogging. And one of the questions they said is, how frequently should you be blogging? And I reckon you should be. I reckon for us, for the sort of people we are, who are positioning ourselves as experts, we should be blogging at least once a week. Really, once a week. If you haven't got one really good idea to share with your network at least once a week, I think you need to go back to the drawing board and do a bit more research about your stuff, because you get stuff from your clients, you get stuff from conversations, you get stuff from other things that you read online, and you should be having at least one blog's worth available every week. Okay, I can see that Jim, you put your hand raised. Let me turn your microphone on. Hello, Jim.
Hi, guys. Hi, Gian. Yeah, look, I've got an interesting question. Like, I come from interpersonal psychology, and I'm writing a book on it, and I'm looking at trying to own the interpersonal psychology space in corporate Australia. First of all, what do you think of that idea? Is that viable, do you think?
I don't know enough about the topic area, Jim, but I reckon it sounds okay.
The second question is, most of the HR people that I come across want systems, and I don't do systems. I do IP. I sell the IP. I don't do put this management system in place and you'll be fine. Have you got any suggestions about how to get over that hurdle?
I think what you're asking is more of a business development question, Jim, rather than the marketing side of it. Or are you trying to say, how do you market to people who don't want to buy what you've got? Is that really what you're saying? I know that's really dumbed it down a bit. But...
Yeah, I think so. What I'm finding is that people want me to walk in and say, if you follow my interpersonal management system, here's the workbook, yes, you'll be fine. And what I'm saying is, if you learn how to be a very good interpersonal manager, you'll be fine.
Yes, I get what you're saying. Yes, okay. So this is really good. It's a really actually we'll get to this when we talk about niches, but I'm happy to talk about it now. So I think the situation that you're facing, Jim, is that you're not solving a problem that's uppermost in their mind, or at least they've got a problem in their mind, but they also have some idea of what their solution is.
Yes.
And you come in and say, "Oh, look, I understand your problem," and they go, "Great, give us a solution." And you go, "Oh no, hold on, this is actually the better way to solve it." So I think it's a much harder sell.
Okay.
Because you haven't got a band-aid for their scratch.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. You're coming in saying, "Okay, you need something else instead of a band-aid. Sprinkle this miracle ointment on there or something like that," right?
Yes.
So it requires a lot more education.
Okay.
So
Thank
you'll
you.
actually have to take a lot more steps. And when we talk, we'll talk a little bit later about the whole buying process. I think you'll
Excellent.
find that you will have to take a lot more steps in that buying process.
That's okay. I'm
However,
okay with that.
yep. However, I think the really important thing for you is that you still come in with whatever problem is presenting for them. So
Yes.
you still
Yes.
got to really be very clear about what's going on in their head, what's keeping them up at night, what's stopping
Yep.
them from getting their other work done, and
Yep.
and lead with that, but then take them very carefully through a process where eventually they go, oh yes, actually, we were thinking this, but now you've convinced us, Jim, that your solution's better. And look,
Yep.
a blog is a perfect way of doing that. I
Okay.
think you may need to do some special reports.
Yep.
I reckon something like a webinar, like we're doing now, and you just run some educational webinars where you just say, look, are you having these 3 problems? And you just state 3 things that you know that they're having, and you say, come along, I've got a background in this, and I'm just going to be there to answer your questions and give you a brief overview of how we can solve those problems.
Okay.
So
That's
I just think
excellent. Yeah.
it's really hard to, I think you've got a much harder position than somebody who
Sure.
goes, I need its problem solved, and you're going to solve it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
great.
that's very good advice. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for taking the time to clarify that with me as well. Cool. So I'll just turn Jim's microphone off just to make sure there's no background noise. Any other questions before we continue? Okay, let's continue. Okay, so the third one, and this is the third one in this area of managing yourself and your business, is this whole idea that you now need to build a reputation and not just rely on advertising. And reputation in today's world, in brief and a bit dumbed down, means social media. Okay, so these 3 questions that I've got for you, I've got questions, I've got a couple of notes. So let me tell you the questions first. So the questions are, what is your social influence strategy? So I prefer social influence than social media because I think we're using social media or social networking tools to influence people. Where did they find you first? So it used to be your website. So the only place they could find you was your website, but now it's not. They can find you lots of other places first. Eventually they'll go back to your website before they decide to do business with you, but they may find you somewhere else first. And the third question is, how well are you leveraging everything that you do? So let me just talk about those little comments that I've added here, because I just want to give an example of what I do. So my social influence strategy, I actually speak in a number of different areas. So I have a completely different topic when I talk to corporate audiences, and I talk to them about leveraging the power of the individuals in their workplace. So I don't talk about social media at all, except for the fact that social media has brought this about. But I talk to business owners, like us here, about social media and how to use the internet and how to leverage that. So for that group, this is my social influence strategy. So there's a book, there's a newsletter. So probably the newsletter and the free webinars are my 2 biggest funnel sources. Okay, so then the people will buy the book or give away the book free to prospective clients. I do a lot of book reviews, and I share a lot of articles that other people have written on blogs and so forth, and I share them. So apart from my own stuff, this is the other sort of things that I do. So I do book reviews of other people's books, I share articles, all just to build up my credibility. Where do they find you first? So these are just some examples, not necessarily for me, but nowadays people are looking for you on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. By the way, Google+ is now the 2nd biggest social network, bigger than Twitter and LinkedIn. It's only 2nd to Facebook. And they'll look for you in Google, they'll find you on LinkedIn, Pinterest, and so on, online communities and forums. And then the third question is, how well are you leveraging everything that you do? I just want to show you what I mean by that. When I say leveraging, I mean when you write a blog post, who's getting value from the blog post? Or when you write a newsletter article, who's getting value from it? Let's take the newsletter. If you write a newsletter article, is it only your newsletter subscribers who get value from it? And I think it should be a lot more than that. So let me just show you this quick little model here. This is why I think blogging is so important, because a blog becomes a central place for everything that you do. So you write articles to your blog, great. You write an article to your newsletter, you should also cut and paste it into your blog. You post a video on YouTube, you should then embed it into your blog. You post a presentation on SlideShare, which we as experts should be very easy for us to do, create in PowerPoint, upload to SlideShare, and post it to your blog as well. You write a book review, which I mentioned just on the previous slide. I publish it on Amazon.com, but I also cut and paste it to my blog. So a blog becomes like a diary or a journal or an archive of everything that I do. But it's actually more than that, because you can set up your blog to automatically post to LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So every time I blog, within an hour, a post goes out to LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter with the title of my blog post and a link to it. Okay, and that's done using a piece of free software, or free, actually, it's not even software you need to download. It's actually a free website called Twitter Feed. So Twitter, F-E-E-D, twitterfeed.com. I guess it was originally written just for Twitter, but now they've expanded it to include Facebook and LinkedIn as well. You can't automatically post to Google Plus and Pinterest yet, so you have to do that manually, but that's worthwhile doing. Google Plus, there are a couple of services that let you do that, but they're paid services, and I just think it's worth doing it manually. Okay, so that's what I mean by leveraging. So take something like a newspaper article, and newsletter article, and I get a lot of value from it. So I publish it to my newsletter, which reaches about 2,000 people. It then goes on my blog. In fact, I do the blog first, and then a week later it goes to my newsletter. And then goes out to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google Plus. So that's already like 6 things that I'm getting from that one article, rather than 6 additional things, rather than just the one which goes out to my newsletter subscribers and then never gets seen again. The other thing about it going on my blog is that every blog post is a separate web page, and so Google will pick it up and it becomes part of your record as far as Google is concerned. So Google then knows that you are somebody who's publishing regularly, so it'll give you a boost in its search engine rankings. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just stopping to get a sip of water because I've got a little bit of cold at the moment, but I figure that's not the sort of virus that you're going to get from me over the computer, so we should be safe. So look, that's what I mean about leveraging, and this is a really important thing. A lot of people struggle with doing online marketing and doing it regularly and consistently because they feel they're not getting enough value from what they do. And part of it is because they're just not taking advantage of the leveraging opportunities that are available to you by taking one piece of content and using it in multiple ways. I have actually written about social media. I did a webinar about this last year, and I don't want to go into a lot of social media stuff today. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I have got this webinar that I did last year called Social Media Myths Busted. So if you go to gihanperera.tv, which is the website I mentioned earlier, which is my YouTube channel, just watch that webinar, which is a 30-minute webinar, which tells you about my take on social media, because I think we should be doing it differently than what most people are doing. So most people are saying, yeah, no, we really need to, like, we're going to fall behind. Just to fit in, we have to be on social media. But I don't want you to fit in. I want you to stand out. And to be able to stand out, you've got to be doing more than just sharing photos and liking comments, and making your own comments. I reckon you've got to be posting really useful stuff that positions you as a leader and as an authority. So I'm happy to expand on that if you want me to today, because I'm happy to expand on anything today. But also, please, I'd recommend watching that webinar recording, which is available free on my YouTube channel. Okay, so those are the 3 questions again. Just I'll put them up there for your reference in case you want to ask me any questions about them. Okay, I can see a hand raised, so who's that? Caroline, I'll just turn your microphone on.
Hi, Gihan. Hi. Look, I've got a quick question. I've had a newsletter going for the last 4 or 5 years, and I've got, lots of subscribers, and it's growing, and I get a 41% open rate on it, which is pretty good compared to the industry average. If I'm releasing all my articles for my newsletter, and it goes out monthly, if I'm releasing those articles out onto my blog and everywhere else, why would someone stay subscribed to my newsletter when they can get that content everywhere?
I understand what you're saying, and yeah, look, that's a good question, and I get that question, and the other question I get a lot is, like, if I publish my content in lots of places, won't Google penalize me? Okay, so let me answer both of those together, actually, but let me answer yours first, Caroline. So the reason is because some people like getting newsletters, and some people like reading blogs, some people like listening to audio, some people like watching video. So me, I used to love getting newsletters. I used to subscribe to a lot of newsletters and have them filed automatically into a reading folder so they wouldn't clutter up my inbox. And then when I got spare time, I'd then go through the reading folder and just read them. Now that I've got a phone and a tablet in addition to my laptop, I unsubscribe from newsletters, but I subscribe to blogs because I've got a little tool that I read a blog post, I can click a little button that saves it onto my phone for reading later, and then when I'm out getting coffee or even on a plane when I don't have internet access, I can read those blog posts. So it's a matter of convenience for them, Caroline. So I try to make my material available in as many different formats and delivery mechanisms as possible, because people are going to have different preferences. So that's why, like, I'm happy to share, to automatically post my things to Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, because there are different networks and different people I'm connected to in those 3 places as well. So it's very much about personal preference for your readers. So I want to give it to them in as many formats as possible. And look, I think you might lose some readers, you might lose some subscribers, but I reckon that was going to happen anyway. I really do. One of my very first clients, Max Hitchens, great guy, he's been a client for almost 15 years, and he used to be one of my biggest fans of my newsletter. And some years ago he said to me, "Oh, Gihan, I've got to tell you, I've unsubscribed from your newsletter." And I was kind of shocked because I thought he just thought it wasn't relevant anymore. He said, "Now I love listening to it as a podcast, because what I used to do was read out the newsletter articles out loud and publish it as a podcast on iTunes." And he says, "Now that I've got an iPhone, I just love listening to it as a podcast when I'm on my exercise bike every morning." And that was a real eye-opener to me, Caroline. It's just like, okay, well, you know, that's Max's preference, and he was one of my biggest fans. So absolutely do that. I really can't see any downside to that. And if you're getting, I mean, you're getting 40% open rate, is about double what the industry average is.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. I really don't think you're going to harm your newsletter subscriptions that much, and those subscriptions are going down anyway because people are choosing to engage with you in different ways.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And just to answer the second part of the question, which Caroline didn't ask, but I just took the opportunity to ask myself, is about the duplicate content thing. So you could publish to your blog. There are other places you could put it, like eZine directories and so on, where you can publish your material in different places. Google won't penalize you for having it in multiple places. It just won't reward you. So if it sees it in 5 different places, it'll only give you credit once. It won't give it 5 times, but it won't give you minus points for having it in different places. It just understands that, you know, you got content in different places, and it's the way the internet works now. You publish material in multiple places, so it's not, yeah, it doesn't penalize you for doing that. So please publish your material anywhere you like. Just another thing related to that is, if someone asks me whether they can publish one of my articles or blog posts somewhere, just send me a nice polite email asking. I always say yes. I check them out, but I always say yes, because I want my material to be available anywhere they can be. And I know Google's not going to penalize me, and you know, I don't need to get paid for that. It's just another way for me to get my name out there. So thanks, Caroline. Let's see if there are any other questions coming in. Okay, I'm just going to lower hands. Alex, do you see anything coming in? I don't see any other questions yet.
It's no, I haven't seen any questions come through.
Okay, great. Okay, folks, so we're just past the halfway mark, and this is about right. And remember, I said that the first 3 sets of questions are the ones that most people want to spend their time on, so that's about right. So I know we had a bit of the introduction, but we spent a little bit more time on those first 3 sets. I'm still happy to take the time on these next 6 as well. So let's move into that now. So the next set of 3 is about your market. So this is about your network. So the first 3 sets of questions were about you and your business and your expertise and your value that you offer and building up your reputation. It wasn't really thinking about who you're targeting, like who's your network. And of course that's very important, and in some ways maybe you should start with that. But whenever I'm talking to thought leaders, whether they're coaches or consultants or speakers, trainers, anyone like that, I always start with the business and expertise side first, because I think that's more important for us. But now let's switch over and let's look at these 3 areas which have to do with your market. So the first one is about serving a niche. So who are your niche market? Who is your niche market or niche markets? So the 3 questions I've got for you are: what makes them a niche? who do you like to hang out with, and where do they hang out online? So let me just say, let me explain a couple of things. In the first one, I've got a little note there for you. So what makes them a niche is not just business owners or single mums. So that's just the people. But what problem do they have? So it could be business owners who want to create an exit strategy for their business, single mums looking to get back into the workplace after having a baby, or single mums just coping with divorce and having to bring up kids on their own. And you can see those are two very different people with problems, and so they might have very different solutions. So be specific about who you want to deal with. The second question, who do you like to hang out with? I think for us in business, for ourselves, we've got to be a little bit selfish and indulgent here and go, look, if I want my business to grow, who are the people that I want to keep spending time with? So I love hanging out with speakers, trainers, coaches, consultants, so people in my membership community, my eGurus community. I kind of set that up partly because I wanted to create a community of people that I like to hang out with. And most of them aren't in Perth. Most of them I haven't met face to face. But if ever any of them are in Perth and they say, do you want to catch up for coffee? I'd say, yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. And we just chew the fat and we talk about stuff. And it may not be, I may not be able to teach them anything that's useful to them about internet marketing, but that's okay. I just enjoy having coffee with people like that. So just think about who do you like to hang out with when you're thinking about who your target markets are. And by the way, I do want to make the point that you can have more than one niche. And then, of course, obviously the third question is, where do they hang out online? Because they're the places that you're going to prioritize when you're going to decide where you're going to focus your energies in promoting yourself online. So you can do the scattergun approach, which I mentioned earlier, which is like publishing to all the social media platforms. I think you might as well do it, given that Twitter feed takes 10 minutes to set up and then it's automated from then on for the rest of your life. But also, you're going to have some more things which are a little bit more targeted. I do have a 16-question assessment tool on how to find a niche, or rather, when you decide what a niche is, you can do this assessment to figure out what are the weaknesses, strengths about you being able to target that niche. Again, it's free, and again, you can find it at my on my YouTube channel, gihanperera.tv. I did a webinar about this. It's called Niche Guys Finish First. Just look out for that and just watch it, and it'll take you through this assessment tool. So if you're thinking about a new market or even a new product or service for an existing market, just take half an hour, watch the webinar, and go through this process of just assessing, do I understand the demand? Do I understand the supply? Have I done this? Have I done this sort of work before? You know, what's the risk to me? And it just goes through this very simple assessment tool if you want to do that. Okay, so there are the three questions again. I'm just stopping now to see if anyone has any questions. Okay, I don't see any, so let's continue. All right, so the next one is the idea about wants. So give them what they want, not just what you've got. So too many people, they've got these solutions and they try to force fit them to every problem that presents with them. And I think the answer is to take it the other way around. So figure out what they actually want and then figure out a solution for it. And it may not be a solution that you have. It may be a solution that you need to refer them to somebody else, or you may be able to refer them to some resource online. But make sure that what you're doing is you're being an advisor to them, by being able to answer the questions that they have, rather than trying to twist the question around to what you've got. And I don't think I need to tell you guys this because you're probably doing that already. So the three questions I've got for you are, who actually wants what you've got? So first of all, figure out what your solutions are, and then figure out who wants them. The second thing is, what else do they want? So, and this is particularly a good question to ask when you're looking at your own clients. So all of you, I'm sure you've got a set of established clients that you're working with. Just think about what else do they want. So I know one of my clients does a lot of work with high-level CEOs in Perth-based companies, and she does, I'll keep it confidential enough, so she does one particular job for them, but she also knows that they have 2, 3, 4 other problems, and she knows other people who can help them solve that problem. So she says, can I recommend so-and-so to you, because I reckon she's exactly what you need to solve this other problem. And she doesn't, there's no referral commission or anything like that. It's just another way of her helping her clients by saying, I know you've got this other problem, I know someone who can help you, and because it's a referral from me, it's a trusted referral. So think about that. So what else do they want, and how can you serve that? How can you serve that? And the last question is just like, how do you know? how do you know what they want, and how do you know what else they want? So do you know it just by talking to them, or are you doing surveys? If you speak to audiences, are you asking them questions, or looking at the questions they ask you? Or are you doing things like having conversations with them? And I chucked in that last one because I think for us as coaches or mentors or consultants, where we're dealing one-on-one with people, it's just a gold mine of information to find out what people's real problems are. And you don't often get that. I think we're very lucky in our sort of business that we can get that sort of really like market research without having to do market research. It just happens in our day-to-day lives. We just need to remember and record it and then make use of that to be able to offer a better service in the future. So any questions about that, about those areas? I want to give you an example of something that I run this leverage mentoring program. So people who want to work one-on-one with me, actually, let me just show you the whole slide here. This is a bit of a marketing spiel, so I won't go through all the marketing bit. So people who want to work one-on-one with me, I have a $1,000 a month mentoring program, mostly done through phone, and my clients aren't in Perth. And I first ran this about 12 years ago. And it was great. People loved it, and they'd sign up for it. And then I got bored with it. I didn't get bored with the clients. I just got bored with the program, and I just thought, oh, let's move on to something else. And one of my mentors, Matt Church, who I think some of you will have heard of, I spoke to him, and he said, "Mate, why do you stop your $1,000 a month mentoring program?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. And he said, "You should just pick it up again. I bet you there'll be tons of people who want it." And absolutely there were. So I just picked it up again in January this year, and just started promoting it again, and people are taking it up again. And so it just proves to me that even, it's just like people get bored of so you get bored of your stuff long before your market does. And so just offer people what they want, and also people need to put offers out there. So just make some offers to people, because you might be surprised at how many people will say yes. And you don't want to hold back your skills and expertise from the world just because you don't think that you deserve to share it with them, or you deserve to have their money. Okay, so those are the sort of questions again. I'm stopping now so that you've got time to answer them for yourself and to ask me any questions as well. Okay, let's continue. So the third one in this market area is about building a whole network or a community, or what Seth Godin calls a tribe. So build your tribe, don't just chase the crowd. And this is two meanings here. So what I mean by don't chase the crowd is, first of all, don't just only be interested in customers or potential customers. So you've got to kind of build a network around you, and it's nowadays much more than just your customers. And secondly, which comes back to the niche thing, you're not just chasing the whole mass market. What you're trying to build is a tribe around your niche products or services, your niche markets. Okay, so one of my marketing mentors, Mal Emery, said to me, "Who has your clients before you?" So figure out where your clients are going through in their day. They come across you for some reason, and who did they have before you? So for example, when I was running, I still run a web design company, even though it's not a big part of my business now, but if I was running a website company, who comes to you before they think about a web designer? Who do they think about? So maybe it's a web host or an ISP. In the early days, they didn't know anything about web design companies, so they probably just asked their ISP or their tech support guy, "Who do you know who builds websites?" And so then if I got in with ISPs and I got in with tech support guys, they would be able to refer business to me. And then we could set up a commercial arrangement if we wanted to. But just think about who has your clients before you. So in terms of your coaching clients, who are the people who they would talk to, where it might be natural for them to refer business to you? And the second thing is, who can you collaborate with? Who can you do joint ventures with? And I don't want to make joint ventures sound like a really formal commercial arrangement. It's just like, who can you do stuff with? So I've created a number of audio CDs where I interview people, and we create a CD out of it, and I send them a master copy of the CD, and I say, you can print as many copies as you like, sell them, give them away, do whatever you like with them. I'm going to do the same with my copy, and we'll walk away happy. We'll both have a product. That's what I mean by joint venture. So we do have a one-page agreement, just saying, okay, just outlining exactly what I've just said. But that's the idea. Like you've got access to, even in this group alone, people that you can do those sort of collaborations with. Who can you bring in as guest experts or guests or other people that you can bring in who aren't competing with you but can offer something complementary. And this last question, I think, is a really powerful one. Michael Henderson, who's a corporate anthropologist, asked this at a conference that I attended about 5 years ago. And he said that in traditional corporate hierarchies, the leader is at the top. But in traditional cultures, in tribes, the leader is at the center. So what would you do if you were at the center of your tribe? So what could you do if you weren't just a person who was the expert, but you were the person who kind of knew the other people around you? So if you have coaching clients, for example, who do you know? Like, do you have two clients who should know each other? They don't yet, but you're the common link between them. Maybe it's time to just think about how they could work together with each other and just create an introduction. And that could be the most valuable thing that you offer as a coach. I know it's not the most valuable, but you know what I mean, right? So that's the sort of thing to look at. Just look at if you were at the center of your tribe, and if you were the person who was the leader of the tribe, but not just the person who had the ego leadership, but the person who had that being of service by being at the center of the tribe, then what could you do? And what could you do for your community there? Okay, again, I'm stopping to give you the chance to write down your answers and to ask me any questions. And then we're into the home stretch, actually, the last 3 sets of questions. Jim, we're just about to get to your question, actually, and just elaborate on your question. Okay, so let's go on to the third section. So the third section, we talked about your business and your expertise. We talked about your market. Now let's look at your marketing. So how do you connect your business with your market? So 3 areas here. Oh, actually, let me just quickly summarize them. The 3 areas here are about connections, not transactions. It's about buying frames, and it's about delivering experiences. The first thing is making connections, not transactions. Actually, Caroline kind of touched on this with the newsletter. Newsletter is the perfect thing for you to do to create connections with people, because they're not going to buy from you the first time. But if you can get them on your newsletter list, fantastic, because then you can communicate with them regularly, consistently, with high value, with their permission. That's why the question 3, how often are you publishing your email newsletter? By the way, my recommendation is at once a month at worst, and once every 2 weeks if you can. But if you're blogging every week, it shouldn't be hard to just copy and paste a newsletter article into your blog post, or vice versa. But the first 2 questions are, what is a buying sequence, and what are your price points? So let me show you what I mean by that before I get back to showing you that slide again. So the buying sequence is, what do they do when they go through to buy from you? So for me, I kind of know that one of the buying sequences that they have, they sign up to my newsletter, then twice a month I run a free webinar, and I promote that in the newsletter. And I know people don't always want to sign up to webinars, but they don't mind signing up to the newsletter. So then they sign up to the webinar series, and they might buy the book, join the eGurus community, which is a $50 a month program, and then they might buy my $1,000 a month mentoring. It's rare that I get people who buy the $1,000 a month mentoring just off the bat, unless they hear me speak at an event like this, or speak at a conference, or do a boot camp type workshop stuff. Then sometimes it happens. But generally, my funnel, or my buying sequence for mentoring tends to be this. And the second question, so this is actually, so Jim, this might be really interesting for you to figure out your buying sequence for your clients. And I think, see, for me, in my buying sequence here, people don't actually buy, actually out with money, open up their wallet or purse until this point here. Okay, and even then, they're buying a $30 book, actually a $10 book if they buy the Kindle or the iBooks version. Okay, so it's not a lot of money. So eGurus is $50 a month. Mentoring is $1,000 a month. I reckon for you, Jim, you're going to have a lot more of this free stuff up here to convince them that you're actually somebody worth listening to, because your solution, because you know you're somebody worth listening to, but your solution is contrary to what they want. So you might have to do a lot more convincing to get them to actually even have a meeting with you or a phone call with you. So I reckon for you to get them to buy that mentoring or that coaching, you should be having and there's probably a phone call or 2 in here, by the way, for me as well. You should be trying to do everything you can with all your free stuff to try and get people to pick up the phone and call you, or to send you an email saying, please call me, here's when I'm available. Okay, but I reckon for you, your buying sequence is going to be longer at this end, at this back end here, before they buy from you. Okay, and the other thing is price points. So have multiple price points for people, because not everyone is going to be willing to buy from you at the same price point. It's not only based on budget, it's based on their comfort and their willingness to trust you. I just saw a little comment in the question box. And oh, that's from Jim. Great, says thanks, that makes sense. Thank you, Jim, I appreciate that. So just with price points, so you can have a number of price points. So again, let me show you an example of what I do. And this is not the only model, but I'm just showing it to you as a real live example. So I've got lots of free stuff. For example, a newsletter. There's a $30 book, which I mentioned. There's a $100 online course for people who aren't yet convinced yet that they want to buy the something like a workshop. Then there's mentoring, and I've said $5,000 here for mentoring because it's like typically people will hang around with me for 3 to 6 months and then they're done because they don't necessarily want me for the rest of their life, but they want something specific. So they're thinking in their minds, I mean, I've said $1,000 a month, but they're thinking, yeah, you know what, this is kind of going to, I'm going to kind of need this for 3 to 6 months, so I'm saying 5,000 there. And then just to finish off this slide, for a conference presentation or a conference plus breakout and so on. So I've got different offerings at different price points, and I think you should have the same. I think you should have the same. So figure out what are your price points, so that, and what you're doing is you're just being respectful for people. You're saying not everyone wants to engage with you by coming to a $1,000 workshop or signing up to $50 a month membership. Doesn't sound like much, but they're signing up, they're making a commitment there. Some people will just want the free stuff, and that's all they'll ever want. Some people will want to pay you something, but they'll only want to pay $20 or $30 for a book. Okay, so any questions or comments about that? I'm happy to take now. So I'll put up those questions again so you can answer them for yourself and ask me any questions as well. By the way, one of my clients, beautiful Dominique Bertolucci, she really opened my eyes about the value of a book, that she wrote this fantastic book, Your Best Life, and it's about goal setting, which is her area of expertise. And she said one of the best things that came out of the book was that people who couldn't afford her coaching, suddenly she had a $30 solution for them. And it just freed her up so much from having to try and either turn people away who she knew she couldn't afford it but needed it, and it broke her heart, or or trying to convince people who weren't quite ready for her. So she said, here's a $30 version of, you can get a whole bunch of value from this. And I thought that was fantastic and gave me a real insight into when I published Fast, Flat and Free, that became my $30 way for you to engage with me. Okay, let's continue. So we've only got two last sets of 3 to go. So the whole idea of buying frames is that people won't buy from you the first time they see you. And when they come to you, they've got whatever frame of mind they're in. People are distracted, they're ADHD, they are clicking all over the place, they might have clicked a link by accident, and they are asking these 4 questions in their mind before they are actually at all interested in anything to do with you. Oh, actually, let me, before I go on to that, Jim's asked me a question in the question box. Where do online courses fit into your sequence? And they don't fit into mine at all much, Jim, so I have got that as an example on the previous slide, which leads into a workshop sometimes. So I have a Fast, Flat and Free online course, but now I've even made that free. The thing about online courses, let me define what I mean by them. So they're email courses, so you sign up once, and then you, over the next, say, 10 weeks, you'd get an email once a week. In fact, I think I set up Fast, Flat and Free, so every 2 days you get one of these 9 points, actually. It goes for 9 sessions, and we go through basically these 9 things that we're going through here. And the great thing about something like an online course is, A, you're giving value in it, and B, you get like 9 or 10 bites of the cherry rather than just the one. So I think it's really powerful. I don't use it a lot myself, though. If you want to just see some examples of my online courses, almost all of them on my website are free. So if you go to gihanperera.com, it's the web address you see here, and in the resources area, look under online courses, you're welcome to sign up to as many as you like. I think there's a couple which are paid, but they're almost all free. I just come back to frames. Okay, so the idea is that people aren't in the right frame of mind to even think about what you've got to offer them until you answer these 4 questions. The 4 questions are, why me, why this, why you, and why now? So why me is, why is this the right place for me? And let's think about a website for, just to put this into context for you. So is this the right website for me? So you should be talking about, you should be mentioning your target market or niche on your website itself, on the home page, so they know that it's the right fit for them. Actually, let me switch over to this next slide here. So is it the right fit for me? What are the benefits? So what's in it for me? Which is the standard stuff about benefits, not just features. What authority and credibility do you have? And what's the need for me to take action now? So those are the 4 questions that people are asking. And I reckon if you want to write a really good homepage for your website, just write some text that answers those 4 questions. Okay, because what that does, it grabs their attention. And it's one of the things Alex mentioned earlier, like how do you actually grab their attention? This is the way you do it. You answer those 4 questions in their mind. Because until you answer those 4, and until they're comfortable with those 4, they're not going to listen to or read anything else you've got for them. So I often use that formula when I'm trying to grab someone's attention, and it's typically like the homepage of a website, or even sometimes when I'm writing a sales letter or doing a promotional YouTube. Most of my YouTube stuff is educational, but I still want to cut through those 4 questions first before I get onto the education. Okay, so those are those 4 questions. Sorry, those are 3 questions in this area. Let's see if I've answered that. I think I've covered that. So what are the benefits you're offering? So what are the benefits of the coaching, not just the process? This urgency one's really interesting. So why now more than ever before? So I think when you're saying why now, it's not because you've got this is post-Christmas sale, or there's only 3 copies of my coaching program left in stock. I mean, it's hard for us to do that, right? But you can say, how has the world changed, or how has your world changed? That means that my executive coaching or my career transition coaching is more important now for you than ever before. Okay, so that's the way you answer the why now question. Any questions about that? Alex, I think our timing is perfect because we're just about up to the last section now. Is there anything that you want to add before I get on to that last one? I'm just checking in with you, Alex.
Yeah, look, first of all, I've just been listening in on the whole presentation. I've been around marketing myself for numerous years, and some of the stuff that you've mentioned are quite new to me. So first of all, I want to thank you for your time. And I think especially around specialization, one of the reasons why we did bring coaches on board was for them to be able to create a unique difference in the marketplace, especially as given that the IP we have, Decisionship, is quite unique and quite profound in the market too. So thanks for covering that as well.
Great, thank you. All right, so let's move on to the last section. So the last section is about experiences, because your products can be copied in China, services can be copied or outsourced to India. So what are you doing to create experiences for your clients? I'm having this problem at the moment. I'm getting an IKEA kitchen redone, and I was told to talk to these people because they sort everything out for me, but every time I talk to them, they solve one problem and add another 3 problems to my list. So the whole experience is terrible, and I don't think they realize that what they're really selling me is the experience. I can go out and get my electrician and my plumber and somebody to knock out a hole in my wall. I can do that all myself, but I wanted someone to do that for me, and I'm willing to pay for that, but they don't get that. So I need to have a fierce conversation with them in about half an hour's time, but that's my problem, not yours. But that's an example of what people are buying nowadays. They're really buying experiences. So just think about who's competing with you on an experience level. What can't be copied in what's sometimes colloquially called Chindia. So what are you delivering, or what are you offering that can't be delivered or offered there? And the third thing is, let's turn that whole question around. If some of the stuff, like your products and services, can be outsourced, what are you doing that you shouldn't? What can you do in terms of outsourcing? So I don't have any extra slides for this. I just want to ask you those questions and give you just a couple of minutes, or maybe a minute, to just answer them for yourself now. Again, if you have any questions about that, please ask me.
I've just got a quick question. I don't know whether this is relevant for the other coaches there or not. Just in terms of moving forward after this webinar, what are 1 or 2 things that our coaches could do to start getting some momentum around their online marketing presence?
Yeah, okay, great. So let me move on from that, because actually that's that is actually my very next slide, Alex. So
Oh, sure. Sorry.
I wasn't going to answer a specific question, but the slide I want to answer it with is actually the very next slide.
Oh,
So okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds, Alex. Sorry, I'll come back to that one. I want to give people a couple of seconds more to answer this one for themselves, then I'll move on.
yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, so and this leads perfectly into Alex's question. So look, we've covered these 9 areas, and I know we had 27 questions in an hour, less 15 minutes for all the intros and outros and stuff. So we went through a lot of stuff. So I reckon the best thing you can do now is, like, we had these 27 questions. I've given you the handout, which is all the questions in there. I reckon you should go back and do those, just answer them for yourself. So that's the very first thing you should do, and prioritize. And because people are interested in exactly what you said, Alex, which is the online marketing side of things, and you may have noticed that how our whole focus changed. Like when we started talking about this area here, it was very much about online marketing, about video and blogging and social media and so on. And then when we went into these 2 other areas, it was less about online marketing and more about business. So I reckon if you specifically want to do the online marketing stuff, I would focus on those first 9 questions and look really sincerely about how what you're willing to commit to. And I think the first thing you've got to be willing to commit to is commit to a blog, and do a regular blog, as I said, at least once a week, and blog about stuff that's going to be valuable to your clients and is your unique insights that you bring to it. So I would focus on that, and then look. I think the other 18 questions are good because they're all good, but I reckon they're the ones that you should focus on. Does that help to answer your question, Alex, or do you want to elaborate on that?
That's perfect. That's fine.
Great. Okay, so look, thank you very much for that, folks. I just want to finish off with one little thing here, which is actually when I wrote the book Fast, Flat, and Free, the dedication inside is to my 6-year-old niece Abby, who's now 8. So that's a couple of years ago, and I remember her telling me that she was that would have been when she was in grade 1, and she was telling me that she says, "Oh, I don't know much about computers." Aiden's the kid in the class who knows all about computers, but really, like, she knows much more about computers than she realizes. Absolutely, she does. And now she's teaching me about how I can make better use of my iPad. And I just think that's true. Like, you just know more, far more than you think than you know. Look, I'm just going to mention my book, Fast, Flat, and Free. I think it is a really good book, and I'm not just saying that because I've written it myself. It's actually why Creel asked me to, invited me to do this webinar with you guys, and it does go into a lot more detail about each of these 9 sections that we talked about. Whether you get the book or not, I hope that we can connect in some way. I did want to mention, I mentioned earlier the eGurus community, and that's probably the best next way. So that the 2 things that I'd recommend for you if you want to engage with me more, get more of my resources, apart from signing up to my newsletter and webinar series, is get the book or join the eGurus community, and you can check that out at egurus.info. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone who participated. I really enjoyed that. I like my webinars to be really interactive, and so I appreciated the people who did. Everything that you need to know about me, whether you can sign up to newsletters, webinars, buy the books, join eGurus, is all available at gihanpro.com. So thanks, everyone. I'll hand back to Alex to finish off.
Thank you, Gihan. Well, again, fantastic webinar. We've actually got a copy of your book in our office, and anytime we do any type of online marketing, we do reference and go through the various chapters in your book, and it's very profound. Some groundbreaking strategies in there as well. So I highly recommend, if you don't have his book, definitely worthwhile investing. So, and also, again, thank you for your time. I just got a message from Jonathan, actually, who said he gained some massive value out of the program. I'm sure a lot of other coaches have as well. So just to finish off, just letting you know, if you haven't already registered for tomorrow's webinar with Chris Murphy from GoToWebinar, please do so now. That starts at 1 p.m. till 2 p.m. Other than that,